The human subclass is widely considered to be the S-tier pick to play outside, mostly thanks to its high intelligence and specialized social perks. When you're setting up a new human playthrough, you have the option to select background traits that modify your gameplay experience. ADHD is one of the more interesting perks to select because it gives you a lot of unique buffs and debuffs that you can build your character around, unlike a lot of other perks. Before you lock into this trait, do keep in mind that the devs have a unique RNG mechanic around this. Selecting the ADHD trait gives you a 33% chance of starting the game with an additional learning disability trait, such as dyslexia. Today, we're diving into the features of this trait, how it impacts your gameplay, and some viable playstyles that you could use to try and min-max your character around it. In the current Holocene meta of the outside, most human builds are optimized for consistency through hard work, discipline, and recurring training. The flaws introduced by the ADHD trait makes it almost impossible for you to follow a traditional human build. The first, and arguably the most frustrating, is wandering brain. Once you start a quest that the game deems to be tedious, you get a -3 perception debuff until you finish the quest, or start an entirely different quest. On the other hand, when you start a quest that the game deems to be interesting, you gain a 300% boost to your XP gain. This mechanic can easily be exploited to quickly max out certain skills, such as crafting, hacking, or lockpicking, although you might want to be a bit careful while completing these interesting quest lines. Once you complete an interesting quest, you'll receive a status effect called Exhaustion for the next 72 hours, which caps your max stamina. This flaw also makes it so that sometimes you miss an insignificant task associated with a certain quest. While typically it's not seen as a problem, it can be a game-ending scenario if you're trying to complete the Corpo questline. Most human players have a balanced stamina bar that regenerates quickly after short bursts of effort. But with the ADHD trait, you actually get an increased max stamina pool, but your stamina regeneration is severely nerfed. Furthermore, if you push too hard without letting the regen catch up and your stamina hits 0, your character enters the Dreaming status effect for the next 5 minutes. The Dreaming status effect is probably the worst effect you can get in-game. It completely desynchronizes you from the game world, kind of like the game engine skips a cutscene that you were actually watching. You can find yourself standing in front of an NPC who just finished giving you a complex set of instructions, but your quest log is blank and you have no idea why you're holding a quest item or where you're supposed to take it. The worst of all is that this effect could trigger during combat. Don't worry though, thanks to the adrenaline system, every single time you start a new combat encounter, your stamina gets refilled. This allows you to have a balanced opportunity to fight your target or run away. However, the Dreaming status effect could be triggered during combat if the threat level is too high or if there is a lot of input delay, and that can potentially result in a game over because you can't fight back or you can't run away. The next flaw you get with the ADHD trait is called cognitive drift. This makes it so that you can only have one active quest at a point in time. Most human players can have multiple active quests on their UI whilst focusing on a singular quest. However, with ADHD, it's almost impossible to do so. The moment you start a new task, even if it's extremely insignificant, for example the laundry quest which does not take that much time, the game engine automatically deselects your previous questline. You don't lose any progress though, but you would definitely lose the wayfinding for it. This flaw can work in great synergy with the wandering brain flaw and can completely negate the debuff you get from it. Since you only get the perception debuff so long as the tedious quest is active, you can always switch out to a different quest to remove the debuff. You can also try to complete a tedious quest alongside a main quest if you can memorize the quest log and the instructions for it. It's not merely the quest UI that's impacted by the trait. The inventory management system also works a little bit different. For most human players, essential items such as keys, wallet, or phones are hard-coded as key items. They always know where they are and they can't accidentally lose them. Thanks to the forgetfulness debuff, if you have the ADHD trait, these items do not have their protected status. They become generic world objects that can be misplaced onto any container on the map. A normal human player will not be able to deposit a phone into a refrigerator or a wallet into a microwave. However, with this debuff, you can do so. To get your item back, you will have to pass a perception check each time. If you fail the check, the item stays invisible and you won't be able to pick it up. To compensate for all these debuffs, the trait also gives you a buff called Driven by Motor. This gives you a permanent 10% movement speed buff, so long as you stay in motion. This comes with a penalty for standing still. If you stand still for more than 10 seconds, you trigger the restless status effect. This reduces your perception and agility, causing the environment to appear a bit more blurry, and also causing your character to fidget a lot and move around automatically. While the movement speed bonus is really nice, and not to mention the min-maxing you can do with the other flaws, the real winner that attracts people to the ADHD trait is the mechanic known as adrenaline junkie. For most of the game, you'll be playing with a massive debuff to your intelligence and perception. This results in the world feeling fuzzy or slow or impossible to engage with. But the moment you enter the danger status, this logic flips. Your brain finally gets the dopamine it's been starving for. The debuffs don't just disappear, they invert, resulting in you getting a plus 10 point boost to your perception and your intelligence. This allows the player to pull off a lot of clutches and come out of situations that would normally mean a quest failure or even a game over. This is exactly how some players can fail a simple essay outline quest, only to enter a 24-hour window where they can finish a 10-page essay with 100% accuracy and 0 typos. I think this is the only mechanic that draws a lot of human players to spec into the ADHD trait, especially if you're replaying the game. As even though a lot of the debuffs are permanent, most of it can be compensated by speaking to either a therapist NPC or an ADHD coach NPC. You can also meet with a psychiatrist NPC who will sell you items to completely negate all of the effects of this trait for a temporary duration. So, is the ADHD trait worth investing in? I think it really depends on the player. Given its insanely high skill floor and ceiling, I can't recommend it for people that prefer a linear gameplay experience. With the flaws that come with this trait, the early game becomes extremely difficult, with the education questline feeling borderline unplayable. However, if you're looking for a fun challenge and can build around the flaws, you can become very overpowered. It's extremely fun, especially if you have a psychiatrist NPC that can help you negate the flaws temporarily when needed. If you're looking for a similar gameplay experience but with a lot of stability, I would recommend considering the autism trait. I will make a video on that soon. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.